Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, 2022 is in the rear view mirror. We're like 5 days into 2023 now. So, that would only be appropriate that we talk about the final month of 2022, the finale of 2022, to see if the year ended on a high note. Spoiler alert, it didn't. In fact, the month was more or less a copy of November 2022 because both months were pretty much one movie months. November, it was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. December, Avatar, The Way of Water, and everything else existed, pretty much. Although December was slightly, like ever so slightly, better than November, still wasn't great. So, yeah, I mean, we did have a few winners, but a whole lot of misses and a lot of underperformers. So, we're going to go through all that in this video. So, as usual, I'm going to compare my own box office predictions to what actually happened, just, for the fun of it. So, let's get started. So, December 2nd, we got our main movie of that weekend, which was Violent Night. Now, usually, post Thanksgiving weekend is a very bad time to release a movie. Like, studios just don't usually bother with that weekend. But on the rare occasion, the studios actually care and they release like a mid budget movie that has the potential to do well. And that's what Violent Night was. From like the premise, like the trailer, it looked really interesting. Like the whole movie can be described. I mean, I described it in my thumbnail as Santa Claus meets John Wick. That's pretty much what it is. So because of that premise and because that competition was so pitiful, I mean, Thanksgiving was awful. So all those Thanksgiving movies were going to be non-factors. And Black Panther was like 4 weeks old at this point. I thought it had a chance, but I didn't think it would have like a great chance, especially considering all the competition coming out in December. But to my surprise, this exceeded my expectations. Now, my prediction for its opening weekend was 10 to 15 million, made 13.4, so it hit that. It wasn't number one, but it did beat Wakanda Forever its opening day, so there's that. But its legs were much better than I expected. I predicted a final total of 30 million ish dollars. It's now made 48 million, so that's a nice surprise. Yeah, its legs, obviously, with the theming of the movie being all about Christmas, I really shouldn't be surprised that it had better than expected legs. I mean, it was a timely movie. So, and yeah, with those legs, it was able to survive the whole month, even with Avatar 2. It was able to survive. Obviously, now that Christmas is over, it's guaranteed to fall off a cliff. um, but it's still a hit at the end of the day. Nothing, nothing really else to say. A nice, solid mid-level hit for Universal because their year has been so chaotic and so just it really just flip-flopped between big success and big bombs like all the time. Like every month it was like that. So at least it ended out on a bit of a high. So there's that. So Violent Night, you are a winner. Not a strong winner, but a winner at the end of the day. It was pretty much the only movie that was worth talking about that weekend. I mean, I know I made another prediction video. Where is it? Quintessential quadruplets movie, this weird thing. It was like at 900 theaters, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll talk about it, even though I have no idea what this is. I think I don't remember the video exactly. I think it was like based off a manga or an anime or something. But yeah, obviously it had like a limited release. I think the only numbers it was really they really talked about was opening weekend. I predicted like more than $1 million. It definitely didn't do that. It made like half of that, 502,000. As I predicted, it was front loaded. Look at that Saturday drop off, 46%. Oof. And yeah, I don't know what its final total is. I doubt it was much higher than this. I mean, look what happened to One Piece film Red. That movie, like, it started with like less than 10 million and then it just fell off the biggest cliff, fell like 84% or something. So, one of the worst drops in history. So, yeah, I can't imagine this was much better than that. So, yeah, I really don't have anything to say. It didn't reach my expectations, but I really don't care. I didn't expect it to be a big player anyway. So, whatever. And that was the first weekend of December. Violent Night pretty much saved that weekend from being like a total nothing burger, but nothing was going to save the weekend after the 9th. This weekend was a true nothing weekend. It was just nothing. It was just dead. Absolutely dead. Nothing was happening. Everyone was staying home, and yeah, you could definitely say the studios dropped the ball. Like, they could have released a movie here, but they didn't. They just allowed Black Panther, a free, number one weekend. So it had five number one weekends, just like its predecessor. So, well, let's talk about the movies that did come out this weekend, because why not? First, we had Father Stew Reborn, which was a re-release of Father Stew, which came out like back in April of last year. That didn't do very well. I guess Sony thought the R rating was responsible for that, so they decided to re-release it as Father Stew Reborn with a PG-13 rating, hoping to get some of those families who couldn't go last time because of the R rating. Which, I mean, what was stopping families from watching Father Stew anyway? I saw kids watching Deadpool. Kids watched Passion of the Christ. Okay, those are hard R movies. Okay, like, if if parents could allow their kids to watch those, they could watch this. Like, come on. Yeah, it's not. It's like language. That's not even that serious. It's not. It's not that. Like, come on now. But yeah, Father Stew didn't do well, so they re-released it. And the re-release was a disaster. Want to know how I knew it was a disaster? Like, literally the weekend, there was like no numbers coming out for it. I checked all weekend, there was nothing. I was like, why is that? Where are the numbers? Are Sony, are they too embarrassed to show the numbers? Then I found like the final numbers. I'm like, yep, they were definitely too embarrassed because, oh my god, look at this. $135,000 for its opening weekend, or at least its re-release weekend, and like almost 1,000 theaters. Like, fuck. I don't know how to describe this. I predicted like $1 million, but like I think like 500,000 to $1 million, something like that. Yeah, this is way this like not even like a quarter of that. Like, Jesus Christ. And then the second weekend, it fell off the face of the earth, the 97% drop. And that was it. It only made like, what? I'm trying to see. Uh, Judging by this, I gotta scroll through this. It made, I don't know where this extra money came from. This extra several $100,000 came from, but it only made like a couple $100,000. So I believe its re-release was actually worse than the Passion of the Christ re-release. And I believe that, did that also try to go PG-13? Maybe. I'm gonna check off screen very fast because I know it got re-released like in 2005. So I have to look this up. Passion of the Christ. Da, 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 da. Re-edited. Oh, it wasn't PG-13. It was released as unrated. Hmm. I guess apparently it was too much for the PG-13 rating. It went a little too hard, and that only made like $567,000. So yeah, this did way worse than that. So yeah, um, this was a disaster. Why Sony did this, I I can't tell you. I mean, they re-released Morbius because of memes. I don't think we should. I mean, questioning Sony is just pointless at this point. So, yeah, that was The Father Still Reborn re-released. And there's spoiler alert. This did also very bad. I I think I predicted like a million to 1 to 2 million, and like 5 million total. Only got to 1.3. So, yikes! Oof. I thought this would have long legs. It didn't. Um, it literally pieced out after like 2 weeks. That's what it looks like to me. It opened like 679,000. It fell like 68%, which was very much, it was game over. Um, Nothing else to say. It's just it came out, it died, just like all the other Oscar bait movies. They all died one after another. It's a whole graveyard worth of Oscar bait. But yeah, nothing else to say about it. Now, okay, so the first 2 weeks were really lackluster, with the exception of Violent Night. But then everything changed the 16th. The big movie. You all know what it is. It released Avatar, The Way of Water, Avatar 2, the second part of a 5 part series of movies, supposedly. So, yes, we are gonna. A good amount of this video is gonna be me talking about this because everything else is just kind of whatever. But this is important. So, Avatar: The Way of Water. It took 13 years for James Cameron to make this movie. It had delays, it never-ending delays. Came out, got hyped up a lot. Obviously, it's the sequel to Avatar, the biggest movie of all time. Well, as you can label as a two-time biggest movie of all time because it had it, then it lost it to Endgame, then it won it back. So it was a two-time number one movie. And Disney, they re-released the original movie back in September as basically an advertisement for this. That went pretty well. They pushed it so hard because they were dead set on making their money back, because this year has been a really terrible year for Disney. It's like the worst financial performance, like the worst stock financial performance is like what, 1974. So they needed this movie to do well. And you could definitely say it has done well, but when compared to expectations, it gets a little, a little. I don't know what's the right word. It gets a little complicated. But let's talk about my prediction. So my prediction for this, I predicted an opening weekend between 125 and 150. I wasn't expecting 150 plus, or like 170 plus, or like a 200 million plus opening weekend. I thought that was absurd because the hype for this, it was there, but it was more subdued in comparison to say some Marvel movies, like a lot of the Avengers movies, pretty much all the Avengers movies, even No Way Home. Like No Way Home, that had like maybe a contender for the most hyped film ever when it came out last year. This didn't match that in terms of hype, but there was still a lot of hype surrounding it, and it did reach my prediction. Opening weekend, 134 million opening weekend, which is far from terrible, but a lot of people labeled it as a disappointment because again, expectations were so high. I mean, one could say rightfully so because sequel to Avatar, but still, yeah, some people thought it underperformed, that it disappointed, that it took a fat L. But when I saw these numbers, I was like, okay, these aren't super ideal, but this is Avatar we're talking about. Like this isn't a movie where it's going to make all its money in one weekend and it's going to plummet afterwards. Like, this is more of a long game type of movie. It's more of a marathon runner than a sprinter. Okay. It's not going to go like an MCU flick. And I knew this because its opening weekend, like its legs throughout its opening weekend, were much better than like the average blockbuster. Only felt like 17% in comparison to like the 30+% we saw for all the MCU movies this year. So I thought that was a positive sign. And plus, you got, that golden moment during the year where it's just like everyone's out of school, people are off of work, the holidays. It's the best period to release a movie because weird things happen, crazy things happen, and it's a chance for you to make all the money. And it was going well, and then that second weekend hit. This weekend was infamous for two things. One, Christmas Eve on a Saturday, bad, bad. That's just, as a no go. That is just in like Christmas Eve. Like Christmas Eve is one of the worst days of the year for the box office. Obviously, like who wants to go to the movies on Christmas Eve? Most people are going to be staying home, waiting for Christmas, right? Just having dinner and stuff. Like who's going to go out to see a movie? So obviously Christmas Eve is a problem, but on a weekend it's way worse. It is the effect is much harsher. And on a Saturday is usually like the best day of the week, for a movie. So to have Christmas Eve on that day, that is terrible. But then something that no one could have really predicted until like the final hour, snow. Good old winter storm that just ran through the states that I had to deal with myself. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like it started like on Thursday, and then by Friday it was just like a snow everywhere, just ice, snow. It was bad. The temperature was like 5 degrees from where I live. I know it was way worse for like others. I mean, like for Boston, it was just an absolute nightmare. But yeah, obviously, ice, snow, or this will never benefit movies. Like, so you have to deal with that too. And yeah, second weekend, it wasn't horrible. Only felt like 53%. It could have been much worse. As you can see, that Saturday dip. This Saturday dip was actually a lot less severe than I thought, but it's still there. But then Christmas shot up, like nearly doubling Christmas Eve to like 29 million. And then the rest of the days are really good. And then it's third weekend. It went up by 6%, which is some craziness. But that's usually how December works, post Christmas works is that things get real wild after that. Like the period between like Christmas and New Year's is like bonkers. And now it has made as of January 4th, it has made $464 million. Obviously has, playing, as time to make more money. Obviously, Christmas, New Year's, that's all gone now, so that's going to be a problem. So it's going to rely on weekends from here on out. No more weekdays, just weekends. So my final prediction for this, I predicted 700 million plus, just like its predecessor. I There's a 50-50 shot it can still make it. I mean, January is pretty weak when it comes to content, with the exception of like Meg 3 again, but I don't think that's going to be a monster hit. So it has a chance to, go through the rest of the month with no issues. But yeah, obviously it's dropping a bit harder than its predecessor. I mean, let's compare it to its predecessor right here. It is ahead. It is ahead by quite a bit, but I don't know how long that lead is going to last because the first Avatar had some insane legs. Had like, look at this, 77, 75, 68, 50. Look at these. I don't think Avatar The Way of Water is going to match those. I don't think it's gonna happen, even though it did open to nearly, quite a bit bigger than the first movie. It's I don't see it maintaining its lead for too much longer. So the chances are it will fall short of the original's, total, which is not great. But, overseas is saving the day with Avatar: The Way of Water. I mean, just like the first movie, like while we Americans like Pandora, overseas audiences embrace Pandora. I mean, it's already made like $1 billion internationally. It didn't even need the US to make $1 billion. And now it's made $1.5 billion, so it's the biggest movie of the year worldwide. Domestically, it's number two behind Top Gun Maverick. The jury's still out if it will be number one. We'll have to wait and see. But the big number that was like paraded around by the media, I think James Cameron mentioned. Okay, he didn't mention 2 billion directly, but he did mention it had to be like the third, fourth, fifth biggest movie of all time, and all those movies made $2 billion. So that pretty much implies this needs to make $2 billion, and it's like 3/4 of the way there. So, and with January being as weak as it is, I think it has a chance to crawl to that 2 billion, and that way Avatar 4 and 5, would exist. Because the thing is, see, if this doesn't hit its break even point, then we're gonna get Avatar 3, and then Avatar 4 and 5 will cease to exist. They will die. They won't come out. So the fate of Avatar 4 and 5 depends solely on this movie right here, The Way of Water. So we'll see if this can crack $2 billion. But I mean, you can't call this a failure. I mean, who's gonna look at this number and be like, huh, what a fail, lol? No, like I don't see that happening. Like $1.5 billion is nothing to sneeze at. But yeah, we'll see if it hits that 2 billion mark. But overall, I wouldn't call this an overwhelming hit, considering the box office of its predecessor and expectations and all that. But I definitely, I guess it definitely leans more towards hit than fail, definitely. So I'm just gonna call it like just a hit, not an overwhelming hit, not an underwhelming hit, just a hit. Let's just label it as that. And I did see it. I literally saw it that Thursday, when everything was going down with the storm. I saw it like several hours in advance. I saw it in 3D. Yep, I paid for those glasses, and I saw it in 3D. It was all right. I mean, the movie's not great. I mean, from a visual perspective, it's spectacular, but from a story perspective, it's still pretty lackluster. And it had like a lot of moments where it just literal filler, where I was just like, it's just all this, look all this gorgeous eye candy. I'm just like, can the plot move along now? So it wasn't a bad movie by any means, but yeah, it definitely could have been better. It definitely could have used some polishing in the storytelling department and some of the character department too. But I don't regret watching it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And yeah, that's Avatar: The Way of Water. Now we go to the Christmas movies, and oh god. Okay, so the Christmas weekend. All right, we had this Wednesday and we had Friday. We had the 21st and the 23rd. So let's go over the 21st movies. First up, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. My prediction, I got a little too optimistic. I said it would open between like what 15 to 20 million for like the 3 day and like 30 million for the 5 day. Like I wasn't expecting this to reach on the levels of like the Sing movies or anything like that, because those are comparable. They came out around the first Sing came out the exact same weekend as this, like the exact same day in 2016. But man, I oof, like those first few days were really rough. It only opened with like 3.2 million. It's opening day, and I was like, oh god, this is this is really bad. And it made like 2.9 million that Thursday, and then its opening week was like 12.4. 5 day was 18.5. I was like, dear God, this is going horrible. And like I thought my final prediction, which was like I had a wide range, between like 100 and 150, I thought, man, I look like a total goober right now predicting that. But after Christmas, things got a lot better. It was able to recover, got some really solid weekdays, and its second weekend was much bigger than its first. Got a nice 35% increase. And now it has made, as of January 4th, $72 million. So it could reach my 100 million final total. I think it has the word of mouth. It has a severe lack of direct competition. I think it has the juice to do it. It wouldn't be impossible at its rate, but yeah, I guess I was expecting more. I mean, this is Puss in Boots. This is Shrek, okay? And apparently they had a teaser for like I guess the next Shrek adventure whenever that will come out. Although I'd argue they should have made Shrek 5 before this, before making a Puss in Boots 2, but whatever. They did what they did. But I've heard this movie is really, really, really good. So good that I'm actually convinced to watch it now. And I'll try to watch it whenever I can. But yeah, it's total. It definitely could have been better, but it could have been a whole lot worse. It narrowly avoided disaster territory. It was real close. It was teetering on that edge, but it was able to save itself after Christmas. So yeah, that's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And yeah, it's definitely. I don't know if it'll reach the bad guys total, maybe, but yeah, with Puss in Boots 2, it didn't do great, but it could have been a whole lot worse. And then we got The Whale, the movie where I screwed up my prediction video by making it like 2 days later because I forgot it opened wide on that Wednesday, and then I was like, shit. I guess I'll just do it Friday alongside Babylon, and I want to dance with somebody. Might as well, because better late than never, right? So The Whale. This was positioned as Brendan Fraser's comeback vehicle after like years of being like away from the spotlight due to a lot of personal problems, personal just shit that was going on in his life. But and then this had a lot of buzz because the internet and just most people in general just really like Brendan Fraser. A lot of people are fans of his. I am a fan of his. And a lot of people really rooting for him to succeed. And did this succeed? Kinda. I don't know. I mean, my prediction, I predicted it would open between like 1 to 2 million, like 3 million for the 5-day weekend. Well, before that, it had a limited release, and it had a very strong start limited release. Had like a 55K per theater average, which is pretty solid. I think that was the best of 2022. Um, then it fell off the second weekend, but then it had its wide release. It hit $1 million for its opening weekend. Million. And plus these two numbers, that's like almost $2 million. So it got close to my 5-day prediction. I predicted its final total would be like $10 million. I don't know if it will reach that. It might fall a bit short, but it did have a nice increase in week 2. It went up by like 32%. So that's a good sign. I don't know how far this is going to expand. I mean, I guess I can check because I know they have theater counts here for this weekend. So I'm going to check. And I don't see it anywhere. Well, that's great. So I can't even mention like if it will expand further or not. But I mean, it is done a bit better than a lot of other Oscar bait movies that have come out. It's one of the more successful ones in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I mean, not much else to say. Just like Puss in Boots 2, this isn't a great hit, but it could have been much worse. And maybe it'll continue its momentum. Maybe it'll, do better. But I don't know. I don't know. But for December 21st movies, they could have been worse. Speaking of worse, Babylon and I Want to Dance with Somebody. Oh my god. these two movies may be like, in terms of like my predictions, these may be some of the worst predictions I've ever made doing YouTube in terms of like what I predicted and what actually happened. Because with both of these movies, I predicted like the same numbers, like more or less like 40 for Babylon, like 40 to 50 for I Want to Dance with Somebody. Even if those numbers came true, they would not have been good. Both movies would still be in the red, but those numbers still would have been far better than what actually happened. Because both movies turned out to be utter train wrecks, disasters, L's, just shit shows, to say the least. Or that's definitely a lack of a better term for Babylon, considering what I heard about it. But let's talk about Babylon first, because it's by far like in much worse shape than I Want to Dance with Somebody. So Babylon, I predicted 40 million, but even in my prediction, I wasn't sure how well it would really do. It was another Oscar bait movie, but it had like a really divisive reaction from like critics and general audiences, mainly due to like its content. It's like long runtime. I've heard a little bit about the content. I I'm like, yeah, I can see why this would turn people off. I mean, if I don't know if I should tell you what's in this movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard things. I don't know if I should really go in detail what apparently happens. You can look it up yourself, but let me tell you, it is the furthest thing from tasteful. um. But yeah. Uh. Oh, I predict. Yeah. So 40 million. It is now made 11.7 million total, not even opening weekend total. It made like 3.6 million opening weekend. My prediction was like 7 to 8. So that looks really terrible. It did worse than Amsterdam. I didn't think that was possible, but it did. It did worse. I'm actually impressed. Oh god, and it's like its budget. I think it was. I don't know if it was 110. I heard it was like 80 million. I don't know the exact number, but this movie's a disaster. It's gonna lose a lot of money, and like its legs weren't exactly stellar either. I mean, it opened that Friday when storms were all over the place. Fell 60% of Christmas Eve, but it bounced back, if you can even call it that. Um, Christmas Day, and then it just fell and fell and fell and fell, and it fell like 28%. I think compared to everything else, it was one of the few movies in the top. Yeah, it was like one of three to fall. At least with Violent Night, that made sense because Christmas was over. But yeah, Babylon fell like 28%, and you really want to just show how bad both this and I Want to Dance with Somebody's. Might as well do two birds with one stone. You want to know how bad these numbers really are? So this is Christmas Eve, right? You see Black Panther. Black Panther was already ahead of Babylon. It was already ahead of it. Okay. Okay, so Friday. So Babylon is ahead of Black Panther. The next day, behind Black Panther. Whitney Houston's still ahead, but not for long though. So Babylon's already fallen behind. Hell, it fell behind Violent Night, which was out for like that was like its fourth weekend. And then Christmas, it's just behind Black Panther, it's behind Violent Night, and it's just and after that it only just gets worse. It gets much worse. And there's Black Panther leapfrog past I Want to Dance with Somebody in Babylon. So literally a movie that was a month and a half old made more money on the weekdays than these new movies. Babylon, I Want to Dance with Somebody. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. So yeah, just God. Now, although this movie is a complete flop, a total flop, there is a part of me that's kind of curious about the movie. Like, I kind of want to watch it. I mean, I don't know. I've seen some raunchy stuff. I've seen Wolf of Wall Street, which was compared to this. Although this movie goes way more, is a bit more extreme than Wolf of Wall Street. But I can handle extreme things. But yeah, this movie just, it felt like a red flag from the get go, like a financial red flag, and yeah, total disaster. Maybe I'll watch it on Paramount Plus when it eventually goes there. I don't know, but yeah, fact is, this movie bombed super hard. One of the biggest bombs of the year. Paramount's year ended on a real low note with this, which is a shame because their year was so good. With again like Scream 5, Jackass Forever, Lost City, Sonic 2, Top Gun Maverick Smile, all big W's, and they get in with this, just this. Like, it's sad. And Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody was just as sad. Maybe not as big as a failure as Babylon, but it's still a failure at the end of the day. Okay, so I already mentioned this in my actual prediction video, but I'm just going to mention it again. For some bizarre reason, Sony at the last second decided to change the title from I Want to Dance with Somebody to Whitney Houston I Want to Dance with Somebody, which I thought was a brain dead thing because everyone knew this movie was about Whitney Houston. I mean, you could tell by the poster, like, Naomi Aki is Whitney Houston, and I Want to Dance with Somebody is one of Whitney Houston's most recognizable songs. Just like how same goes for like Bohemian Rhapsody with Queen, or Straight Outta Compton with NWA, or Walk the Line with Johnny Cash. Like, come on, we're not idiots. But yeah, so I predicted the same thing, a little higher than Babylon. Like, I think it was like 8 to 10 million opening weekend, and 4 to 50 million total. It sure as hell didn't reach that. It only opened by 4.7 million, and it got like 3.9 million the next weekend, and it has now reached 18 point, no, not 18, 16.8 million. I don't think it's gonna get any better. I think it's just doomed to crumble at this. Well, it crumbled day one. So, uh, yeah, but why? Why did this fail? At least with Babylon, that was more understandable because of its content, its 3 hour runtime, the fact that Oscar bait was poison. This had a better chance to succeed. I mean, lots of musical biopics have done really well. Again, Walk the Line, Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, all big hits. So what happened here? Well, I guess there was just a lack of a lack of interest, a lack of hype, because I remember like Bohemian Rhapsody got quite a bit of hype, even with its troubled production. Same goes for Straight Outta Compton. That also got quite a bit of hype. Even Rocket Man. How could I forget about that? Rocket Man with Elton John. Like that got more hype than this, so it just felt like no one gave a damn. Like the audience just didn't show up. They'd rather watch Black Panther for like the eighth time. Like, they'd rather watch that than this because that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Because this last weekend, look at Black Panther and look at I Want to Dance with Somebody. Just embarrassing. That was its eighth weekend. Eighth versus second. Like, God. Yeah. But, I mean, its reviews weren't great, but hey, bad reviews haven't stopped, you know, movies before. I mean, sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. I thought this movie would be a critic proof one, but it just wasn't, apparently. But like the audience just didn't care. Just no one cared. It was just that's pretty much how. That's the only explanation I have. Just no one gave a damn. Everyone would rather watch Avatar 2 than and maybe Puss in Boots 2 or maybe in Black Panther 2. Nobody wanted to watch this or Babylon. They were both doomed to fail, more or less. And it, yeah, complete fail. But yeah, that's really it. That's it for the month. So yeah, 2022 didn't exactly end on a high at all. But it was interesting, although it wasn't as interesting as last December. Last December was a wild ride. Like, you had No Way Home making stupid cash. You had Sing 2 doing well, and then every other movie just being a train wreck catastrophe. That was way more exciting than this year. This year was a lot more subdued, and it was kind of sad. But yeah, that's how 2022 ended. So now we're in 2023, and well, it's not exactly off. Well, I can't. It's not going to get off to like the best start. um, but obviously things are going to get better once we get to spring and summer, and then the fall will just be kind of nothing, and then we go to winter. So, or holidays and winter. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this, got playlists on the homepage, while previous recap videos I've done on the channel. If you want to watch any of the ones I've done this year, or at least last year, that's my bad. Last year, you can go right ahead. Just to see how the whole year went. My two-part recap for 2022, the good and the bad, the winners and losers. I might have to push that back a little bit because I know those are going to be long videos. Not exactly looking forward to them. Maybe I'll push them back to next week. I'll let you know soon enough when I make like a final decision. But they are coming. They are in the pipeline, so stay tuned for those. But if you want to watch any of the past, again, past recap videos I've done on the channel, go right ahead. If you want to watch any of the past prediction videos I made for all the movies I talked about in this video, you can. You can. You just got to go on the 2022 box office predictions playlist and you'll find them. So if you want to watch any of those or any other prediction videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I haven't made a canceled episode since like literally late-ish December. There's been, well, I mean, I know some stuff has happened today, but it's not worth making a cancel episode about. So, yeah. um, but if you want to watch any of the past cancel episodes I've done, the channel's like 170. You want to watch all of them, go right ahead. Binge them all, go right ahead. Just do it. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.